Test. All right, everybody, welcome back to our now football segment here on the Talk with AVC. We're going to start with college football. And yes, we're going to lump college, XFL, and NFL into the same segment today, running off of a shorter amount of time because of technical difficulties, but we shall be fine and we shall push through. So, college football. If you haven't really heard, basically, there's some conferences are playing, some aren't. As of right now, the ACC, the SEC, and I believe it's the Big 12 are playing. I know for a fact it's the ACC and SEC want to play. So they have condensed schedules slightly to only conference play, which makes sense, to be honest. And Notre Dame, my favorite team, who I've talked about at length, who is usually independent, has moved into the ACC for the season. Now, what does that mean for college football this year? Well, it's going to be a little bit different. They're not sure if they're going to have the playoffs. I personally would just say have the winner of the ACC play the winner of the SEC. I think that you could do that. I think it'd be fine. Are they going to be able to have prominent testing? I think they can. I think they programs make enough money and they'll make money off the broadcasting deals. They should be fine to make some testing happen. And with students on campus like here at Iona, I think you can return to play. And there are safety measures you can take. And I think you should be fine. However, yes, it is possible that a couple COVID outbreaks could effectively end this season. So quite frankly, whether it's NFL or CFB, I would enjoy it while you can. So ESPN put out their power rankings here for college football with the limited teams. And just the top five. Number 1, they have Alabama. Number 2 is Clemson. Number 3 is Georgia. Number 4, Florida. And number 5, Notre Dame. I believe Notre Dame is the only threat to Clemson in the ACC. They will play once at Notre Dame. I believe it should be a good game. I don't think people are giving Notre Dame much of a chance, but I think they should. Notre Dame's got a very quality defense. Ian Book is not going to lose you a lot of games. And with some interesting new impact first teamers on offense, I think they can give Clemson a run for their money. I'm not saying they're going to win outright, but I think it'll be a close game. I don't think it'll be a repeat of that playoff game. As far as Alabama goes, I don't think I really need to beat a dead horse here. They are going to be a top-notch power team. I didn't even really look over their roster, and quite honestly, with Alabama, usually you don't even need to because their roster is just complete from top to bottom. Clemson, obviously, it's the last hurrah of Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne, and that amazing duo at quarterback, running back, along with whoever else they decide to throw out there. Trevor Lawrence is going to make look good, and they are going to have a very quality season. Georgia, I think, might struggle a little bit without Fromm. I know they really like their new quarterback, but I think they're going to have to lean on their run game, and I think they could end up struggling a little bit. I don't see the same upside as I saw with them last year. Florida, I do see the upside here. Their defense looks very solid. They have quality coaching, and Andrew Franks is back for another year. I think Florida will be a team to watch. And then obviously Notre Dame. If I had to redo this power rankings, I would probably have Clemson number 1, Alabama number 2, Florida number 3, Notre Dame number 4, and Georgia 5, just because of the uncertainty in Georgia. So as terms of player to watch, obviously, Trevor Lawrence, guys like that, are preparing for the upcoming draft. What would be interesting to see if the Big Ten tries to make a push for January football, if they're able to actually maybe accomplish that. I don't see it happening. I honestly think that if you're going to wait that long, you might as well cancel the season because it's going to put you off track for the next season. Now, let us move into the XFL portion. But wait, Andrew, I thought the XFL was dead after the whole COVID outbreak. Well, maybe not yet. A contingent led by The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and his ex-wife have purchased the XFL from previously owned Vince McMahon and are looking to reboot the league next year. I think it's a great idea. As many of you know, I was a fan of the XFL. I think it's a great opportunity for some of these young guys to play. And it's a great opportunity. You already saw plenty of guys like Jordan Teamu, PJ Walker, guys like that got contracts with NFL teams this offseason because of their play in the XFL. It's a great place for young players who aren't drafted to get to play. The NFL could use a minor league. I don't think they want to take on the liability for one, but I think it will help a pipeline, and you will see more undrafted players and even maybe some college recruits bail on college and go to the XFL. I think that's what they'll really need to take it to the next level. Okay, so the NFL. Obviously, we had the mandatory opt-out day. There weren't a ton of huge names. If you're a Giants fan, the biggest name was Nate Solder. Congratulations. I think that's an upgrade for you guys. The next really big opt-outs were mostly from the Patriots. A lot of the Patriots depth opted out, but mainly specifically Patrick Chung and Dante Hightower. That could extremely hurt probably the top defense in the NFL last year. And without Hightower, who is the biggest key to that defense outside of Stephon Gilmore, I am a little nervous about it. I trust in the hoodie, but I think it won't be as dominant as it was last year. The NFL does appear to be pushing forward as we have Thursday Night Football this Thursday with the Chiefs and the Texans. Should be an incredibly fun game to watch. I am incredibly excited. I thought for sure this would get canceled just based on the fact that the NFL just seemed to be doing nothing. But it appears they are going to go on. I had my fantasy draft this past weekend, and I'm very excited to finally see some football being played. And the only other really big change this offseason, besides a lot of the pushes of social justice, which are a lot of sports leagues are producing, is the fact that the Washington Redskins are no more. They are now the Washington football team. I believe I talked about this on this channel before, how I thought that it might eventually come to that. The football team is a mess. Washington is a complete mess, and they will not be any better off until Dan Snyder is gone. Definitely said that on an episode before. And quite frankly, I just think it's a complete and total train wreck up there. Now, with more allegations of sexual abuse, specifically from the staff and the cheerleaders, it's looking like minority owners might try to find a way to push Snyder out. NFL, take my advice on this one. Use this as an excuse to get rid of a terrible owner. This may be your best and only shot. Save this Washington football team from Dan Snyder, please. All right, so now we want to go into our quick season predictions. We saw guys like Colin Cowherd put up their predictions and stuff like that for this. I was not a fan of his predictions. I thought some of them were okay. I don't see the Ravens going 16-0. I think that's ridiculous. But I'm going to quickly run through my predictions for this NFL season. We're going to start with the NFC, and we're going to start with the East. I have Philly winning the division again. Look, Dallas fans, I know you're going to hate me a little bit on this one. However, I'm not sure. I think Dallas doesn't quite have the intricacies figured out. They've got a new coach. It could take a while for them to get going. And Philly, even yes, with all the injuries, if Carson Wentz is healthy and that defense is viable, I believe the Eagles once again win the division. Third, I have the Giants. I just think they're slightly better than Washington. I have fourth. I think Giants will be a lot more fun to watch this year, but the defense, man, is going to be painful. Moving on to the South with my favorite team in the division, I have New Orleans winning the division. It probably is theirs to lose. They are the most complete team. They still have Drew Brees. They still have Sean Payton. They will probably win the division. They are the most complete team in that division. Second place, you can call this biased. I call it predictions. I have Atlanta finishing in second. I have them going with about probably a 9-7 record. I think their ceiling is probably about 9-7 and 10-6. I think that's their ceiling this year. They have one of the tougher schedules, but with Matt Ryan and co, plus the addition of Todd Gurley, if he can stay relatively healthy, I think can push them much further forward. And if they can continue that hot streak that they started halfway through the season last year, get off to a nice run early, I think they have a real playoff chance, especially with that extra wild card spot. Now, Tampa Bay. Obviously, Tampa Bay, we all know Tom Brady's there, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rob Gronkowski, Leonard Fournette now is there. There's a lot of overhauling in the coaches, Bruce Arians. Look, I understand why people are optimistic about this team. I unfortunately think they could end up being the Cleveland Browns of last year. They add all these names over the offseason, and they don't really mesh well in year one. I think it's year one. Brady signed on to 2 years for a reason. I think their ceiling this year is 9-7. I just don't see it. Quarterbacks typically struggle their first year under Arians. There's a lot of targets. There's a lot of attitudes in there. I just don't see them winning more than 9 games, especially with this hard of a division. And you got some tougher games on the schedule, including the NFC North, which is our next topic. I have the Packers winning the division by a tiebreaker because I think they win the last game against Minnesota. I have them going about probably 10-6. Same thing with Minnesota, who I have going second. This could easily flip-flop depending on certain injuries, but I think if Aaron Rodgers keeps up production, I think the Packers will be fine, especially if they build on the performance of their defense from last year. Minnesota, I like you, but I think Their secondary is a little bit iffy outside of Harrison Smith, and I think it's just going to take a little bit while, especially with a new offensive coordinator. I don't trust Mike Zimmer to run an offense. I think he just runs the ball too much. And, they got some new pieces there. It's going to take some time to get acclimated, but I think they'll rebound nicely. I definitely think they're a wild card team. Third is the Bears. Look, honestly, I debated flopping you with the Lions. This team is a bit of a mess right now, but I think that defense will get them to about 6-10 or 7-9 at least. Let's put it this way. You got Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky as potential quarterbacks. What's the old saying? You got two quarterbacks, you got no quarterbacks. Figure that out. If Nick Foles starts, I might have a little bit slightly better opinion, but honestly, probably not. I think they're at best 7-9. They're third in the division. Fourth, looking to the Lions. Look, Matt Patricia, if cloning the Patriots is supposed to work, we should be seeing some progress at this point. I'm not. The only thing I like about this team is fantasy numbers with Stafford and Galladay. That's about the best thing I like. Maybe if TJ Hawkinson starts to perform a little bit and that defense steps up, you could surprise some people and get some upsetting games. But honestly, I'm just waiting for you to get thrashed on Thanksgiving again. It's basically an annual ritual at this point. The West. Looking at San Fran probably winning the division again. Look, it could be a toss-up between them and Seattle, but if San Fran's defense stays healthy, I think they just have the edge. Seattle does not have enough in terms of consistency, especially on the defensive side, to outlast San Fran. I think San Fran can just win this division, and I see them easily return to the playoffs this year, barring, of course, no injuries. Seattle had them finishing second. I have it similar to last year, where they finished with about the same record. Seattle, look, as long as Russell Wilson's there, you're going to be a perennial playoff contender. You add Jamal Adams. I'd argue for way too many draft picks, but I understand why you did it. You're trying to get the last gasp out of this defense, and you're trying to maybe make one more run for a Super Bowl before Russell Wilson is out of his prime. And I think this might be the best chance to do it. However, I don't trust that offensive line, and something about you feels like you're going to be another first-round playoff exit, and you haven't had much injury luck over the past few years. So that honestly frightens me. The AFC East, this is probably one of the most talked about divisions in sports right now. I'm going to go with the Bills winning the division. I think they are probably, again, a 10-6 ceiling. The big thing for Buffalo is going to be the development of Josh Allen. He's been developing pretty much like fine wine these past few years. Really, really slow. So I need to see a bigger step up from him this year. Otherwise, I think Buffalo is a first-round playoff exit again because their whole thing is predicated on the run game and defense. Stephon Diggs, you're now the number one wide receiver somewhere. Prove what you can do, buddy. Let's see if you can truly emerge as a top receiver. Second place, this is where I disagree with a lot of people. Second place, I have the Patriots still coming in second place. Look, I'm not going to proclaim the dynasty dead until I see it happen. They still got Belichick. Look, Cam Newton, I roasted Cam Newton a lot on this show, but if he can return to about 80 to 85% of what he was with some quality help from an above-average defense and a couple of the Pats' weapons step up, I could definitely see them making a push. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. I think they'll finish at about 8-8, but I don't think they're going to be as bad as people think. Third, I have Miami. Look, as long as Fitzception is playing at QB, I don't have much of a faith in this team. I like Brian Flores. I like the moves you made in the offseason, but until you get Tua integrated and you start taking the next step up, I'm not going to trust you to go more than 6-10 or 7-9. I think they have a lot of upside, but I'd also be wary. Number 4, I have the Jets. They have the toughest schedule in football this year. Sam Darnold has no weapons. CJ Mosley has opted out. You lost Jamal Adams. Your defense is kind of a mess. I just do not trust this team. Even if they give you hope, they're going to find a way to rip it away from you. Sorry, Jets fans. I have a lot of Jets friends, but I don't have a lot of faith, guys. I'm sorry. AFC South. I'm going to still have Houston winning this division. I know the popular pick this year is the Colts. I still think Houston will have something to say about that. Look, yes, you lose DeAndre Hopkins. I think that Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller, and Randall Cobb will be a better receiving core than people think. You added some decent running backs in David Johnson, Duke Johnson. I don't expect David Johnson to be what he was with the Cardinals. However, I think that he will be solid and usable. And if that defense is able to stay healthy, I think they'll still win the division, go about 10-6. Moving on to the next team in second, I have the Titans. I just don't understand the hate, but I do kind of get it in a way. I think they're going to be a bit more mediocre this year than last year. I still see them finishing at their perennial 9-7 record. Ryan Tannehill's not a great QB, but I think he's decent enough to get you that, especially with an emerging defense. and Derrick Henry still pounding the rock almost every play. Colts at 3, I don't trust Phillip Rivers. That's the big thing with me. If Phillip Rivers can show that he's still a quality quarterback, look, he's got a great O-line. He got some weapons there. The defense is still kind of piecing it together, but the big thing is going to be a quarterback. You don't want to have another what-if season without Andrew Luck. Next, I have the Jags. Beat the worst team in football. They're tanking for Trevor. Nothing else to be said. They're going to finish like 2-14. Moving to the North, I have Baltimore winning the division again, but I have them going somewhere around 11-5 and 10-6. It's hard to repeat that good of a record, but I think they will be okay, and they look like they don't have that hard of a schedule, so I think the Ravens will repeat as division champs. All right, the Browns. I have them coming in at second. Look, I'd like to put Pittsburgh here, but I don't trust Big Ben. I trust Cleveland's offense a little bit more. I think Baker Mayfield's going to have a bounce-back year. Kevin Stefanski's a decent offensive coordinator. I think he's going to focus on Nick Chubb, which is should be the centerpiece of this offense. So I like what they are doing down in Cleveland. Pittsburgh at 3. Look, if Big Ben emerges, they could easily come to 2, but I don't trust a 38-year-old quarterback coming off of a major elbow surgery. I like that defense, but I don't trust this offense. And in this division, you're going to need to be able to score points. 4 is the Bengals. Look, you got Joe Burrow. Enjoy it, but you need another 3-4 years before you emerge. AFC West, easily the Chiefs. They didn't lose anybody. They're going to probably win the division again. I have 11-5, 12-4 as their record. Number 2, I have the Broncos. I don't trust the Chargers quarterback situation with Tyrod Taylor, and I think their defense is becoming overrated at this point, but I like Denver. I think they still have some good defensive pieces from those contending days, and I also like that Drew Lock got some weapons this offseason. I think they're just really ready for a push. And I just like them over some of the other teams in the division, specifically the Las Vegas Raiders. Look, Gruden, I understand you're a good coach, but I'm not getting your roster construction. Just get Josh Jacobs the rock so we can get some points for my fantasy team. But other than that, I don't look forward to much this season. That defense is still a mess, and Derek Carr still has a lot of question marks. So that's the NFL standings that I'm predicting this season. Thank you all very much for tuning into this football segment here on the Talk with AVC. I'll be back for another quick segment quickly on the other sports that I have missed. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next segment.